their own private data internally. That means if you want to use from outside world, call a function, make that function public, and let that function access that. So that being present here in second file, you can only see it. You cannot modify it. Check it out. If I will put a breakpoint here, and I will try to understand in which line what is happening, let's understand. So I'm debugging now. I put the breakpoint. Those who are new today, this is new for you. So extremely left side, you can see gray color bar that we set as debugging bar. You have to put your breakpoint over there from where you want to start debugging line by line. Debugging means line by line compilation. So your compiler will come here and it will start debugging. Those people who are attended last class, any one of you, can you tell me which compiler is it? That Roslyn. Yeah. So now compiler came. You have to now press. Who can suggest me what I should press so that I can visit to that class and try to see what is happening there?
F11.
F11, absolutely. So if you go for F10, it will go to line number 6. But if I want to go for F11, it will go to the definition of the class. So I'm pressing F11, guys. Huh? Can you see? It came to class. And what is this right-hand side millisecond it is talking about? Anybody? There is one internal diagnoser which diagnoses how much time it took to execute code so far, right? Total 2 lines of the code it has executed, right? One is this line number 5, and one is this line number 8. So total approximately less than 1 millisecond it has taken. That is the meaning of that. Now I want to go to next step. So what should I press?
F10.
F10, absolutely. F10. So go for F10 so that it will go to next step. That means it says, hey, I created the object called obj and I allocated the memory to that obj, whatever present inside this class. So if you take the mouse, easily you can see that data what you entered. So expand this, it will say age is 26, but it's a logged one. Can you see logged one? One small lock symbol. That means it's saying, dear, it is logged by that guy. You cannot modify it, right? That is called private property. So private property means you can see it, no problem, but you cannot modify it. Now I want to see it at least on the output window. As of now, it has nothing shown in that black and white screen. So how to do? So I have to go to again that function. So I'm in currently in line number 6. I want to jump to that line number, what is that? 9 and 10, so that I can execute that function. So I have to press what? F11. So F10 and F11 you have to manage. So F11, right? I came here, then F10, then F10, and then F10. So it will execute that bunch of code and then come back to where it has gone from. Now, as per our understanding, memory allocation might have happened in line number 5. And once memory allocated to that object, then that object is like boss. Anything you want to do, use me and do it. Whether modify the data, whether display the data, delete the data, replace the data, anything you want to do, you have to do using me. Who says? Object. That is the reason it is object oriented. Now, using object orientation, we already executed our program line by line. That is called debugging. So it is time to see the output, right? So if you expand that, it will show that, hey, now output is age is 26. So can I modify this 26 to 29 here in program.cs? Try it out, whether we are able to do. Let's try. Suppose I want to say, hey, before displaying that welcome, or inside welcome function, before displaying that age, I want to change that age to 30. Try it out. Somebody will say, okay, I will try it straight way like this. Age equal to 30. It will say, no, you cannot do. You cannot access age. Then somebody will say, age is inside object memory, obj. How you are accessing directly? Do obj.age. Let's try that also. It will say if you do obj.age also, you cannot access. Why? Because it has some protection level. So it says this particular data is inaccessible due to its some of the protection level. That means either something they have done private or internal or protected, something they have done. That's why you are not able to access this. Right? Absolutely fine. Now let's go there and make it public. Somebody says, hey, you have to modify also, man, outside. Allow it, no problem. It's not age only, it's not password. Then you have to come here and make it public so that the moment you made public, it will say absolutely welcome. You can display also, you can modify also. You can display like this, line number 7. You can display like this also. Console.writeLine, like this, obj age. So this is for modifying. And this is for displaying. Now both are allowed, modifying also allowed, display also allowed. Why? Because I made it public. If I'll make it private, not even you can display, not even you can modify. Now matter came, somebody thought, hey, I want modification should not be allowed, but display should be allowed. That means line number 9 should be allowed, but line number 7 should not be allowed. Have you seen this kind of situation? Example, pay slip. When you join in any company, your HR manager exposes pay slip, right? So what is that pay slip behavior? You can see the pay slip. You can see the data. How much salary came this month. Can you modify that data? No. If you will able to modify, then nobody will do less than 10, 12 digit in the salary. So HR manager, suppose exposing some data from this class, saying that, hey, whoever outside program.cs, a.cs, b.cs, c.cs, whoever are outside in different files, those functionality should be able to see only. They should not be able to modify. Okay. So line number 7 says you should be able to modify. Line number 9 says you should be able to display. For a minute, if I will comment this line number 11, and only these two lines I will focus, you can see easily that you are able to modify also and you are able to display also. Check it out. When we say object-oriented programming concept, these small things what we are discussing now is object-oriented. Anything applicable to object is object-oriented programming concept. So first thing we say, how to create object. Now we are saying, I want to make few things private, few things public inside that object, how it behaves. The public already we saw. So let's see how it is behaving. F10, because I want to go to next line. Again F10, because I want to go to next line. Now F11. F11 means if you want to go to that particular function. But we have commented that function. That's why F11 also, it will not do anything. Now what will happen? It will display the output. So can you see extremely top line, 30? That means actually inside the class age is 26. But later on, I modified to 30. So it is saying, hey, your age is 30. Okay. If you want to hold the cursor there, you have a command called console.read key. Let's put that so that it will not come outside the program, right? Console.read key means blink the cursor as long as I'm not pressing any key and hold on in that output window. Now again, let's run it. How it will behave? It will hold the cursor there. Check it out. It will say press any key, then only I will close the program. So first it will ask, come to this because memory has not been allocated. Then you say F10. That means memory has been allocated. and existing data of the age is 26. Check it out. If you take the mouse, it will show you. And then you are coming to line number 7. Now 26 you are trying to overwrite with 30. 26 you are trying to overwrite with 30. This 26. Now how to do? F10. That means now if you see obj, it will no more show 26. It will say 30 because in that location only went and changed that 26 to 30. Now I'm displaying line number 9. So what it will display? Overwritten wala. That means 26 has been overwritten with 30. So obviously 30 will display. So now if you say F10, then it will come here and it will say 30 and it will bring that cursor because of that console.read key. Okay. It will say that any key you press, I will read it and then close it. Now I'm pressing enter. Over. It closed it. So this is how it is behaving when everything public, and when we make it private, it is saying whichever is private, you cannot access that. Whichever public, you can access that. That means if I want, I can access this function, no problem. Line number 11, but I cannot access this data called age. That means public gives full access, saying that you can modify also, you can display also. And private gives no access. You cannot modify also. You cannot display also. Now my need is, give me something, some facility, so that this program.cs, that means this program where you are, it should allow me to display line number 9. But it should not allow me to modify line number 7. Is there any way? Anybody in the group can help me? Requirement you understood, guys, right? My requirement is line number 9 I want to allow, but line number 7 I don't want to allow.
Static will make it?
No. Anybody else? Static will not help. Static doesn't need object at all. Okay. If you see obj.age, static doesn't need object at all. Anybody else? I will tell static little later, but first let's focus on easy part. How we are going to solve this problem. My customer needs, the people should be able to see it, but people should not be able to modify it. Right? Like example, I gave real-time example, pay slip. Imagine this is not age, this is your salary, and the HR manager is exposing the salary. So he says you should not be able to modify, but you should be able to see, display.
So, yeah, I mean, we cannot modify here if you declare private as you said it, and we can call the function which is displaying inside that object, right?
That level already we saw, but now yes. I want this line number 7 should be allowed, should not be allowed, but line number 9 should be allowed. That means I don't want indirectly to access through function. Assume that there is no function. Understood or not?
Okay.
So I want line number 7 should be allowed. I mean, should not be allowed because I'm modifying there. And line number 9 should be allowed because I'm just displaying there.
Is it with properties actually?
Yes, you have to use something called property. Okay. So even though these are all data, which are line number 8, age is a data. We say it as variable. Right hand side, I'm just mentioning what it is called. It is called variable or field. Okay. Variable or field. So variable or field has a restriction. It says if you make it private, nothing which allowed. Not even you can display, not even you can modify. If I will make it public, everything allowed. Now you are in dilemma. Sorry, I want differently. I want partial access. Somebody should be able to see, but somebody should not be able to modify. Then for that particular reason, you have some other element inside the class named as property. So let's see how property will behave. Imagine I don't want to use age, don't want to use variable, I want to use property. So how it behaves, how it is declared, and how it behaves. Okay. Uh, just for your better understanding, what I want to do is, I want to say city, there is a data called city. You should be able to see, but you should not be able to modify. And city is Delhi. Like age is 26. Similarly, city is Delhi or New Delhi. Suppose I want to go for another data. So variable is also a data. Property is also a data. But variable says private means nothing allowed. Public means everything allowed. But property says I have three variety. Everything allowed also possible. Nothing allowed also possible. Partial allowed also possible. Partial allowed means you should be able to see, you should not be able to modify. That kind of facility also allowed. Okay. So how to do that? So first of all, I will make public. Then I will make something like string. String is nothing but A, B, C, D, F, G, H, because city New Delhi is containing alphabets also. So I will make it string. Integer means only numeric. String means alphanumeric. Right? Then I wanted city. So I will put here city. CITY. You can make it capital letter also, small letter also, whatever you want. Right? Then I will make it curly bracket. Inside this curly bracket, I will say get. There are two things available in the property, guys. One is called get, one is called set. First, let's understand get. Then we will go for get as well as set. Okay. Get indicates anything I'm exposing. You should be only able to see. You should not be able to modify. See how I'm writing? I'm writing return. Within double quote, I'm writing New Delhi. I'm writing New Delhi. If you go 4 to 5 interview, minimum 2 interview, you will get this question saying that even though we have field or variable, why should I use property? So this reason you have to show there. So have a look. I made public property, no problem, but you can only get it. Public property, but you can only get it. Get it means what to understand? See it, get it, achieve it, display it. These are all same. You can only get it. Nothing else you can do. Right? Let's have a look. I will now comment these 2 lines because you understood already regarding age. Comment means don't execute. If I'll remove this double slash, it will say execute. So of course it will not be executed because error is there. Why error is there? Because private. I don't want to make it public. Now let's come down and try to do same thing with your city. So I will try to display also. I will try to modify also. Let's see what happens. So just like age I displayed, I'll try to display city, obj.city. It will say most welcome, no problem. Now exactly like the age I modified, I want to modify the city also. I'll say obj.city equal to Mumbai. Actual city is Delhi. I try to modify to Mumbai. Check it out what is happening. Line number 13. It is saying, hey, are you mad or what? It's a property that to get property, you cannot modify it. It is not allowed to modify. That is the beauty of a property over the field. So field or variable says, if allowed, everything allowed. If not allowed, nothing allowed. But property says, I have 3 variety of access. One is everything allowed, one is nothing allowed, one is partially allowed. So currently what we saw? Partially allowed. Currently we saw partially allowed. That means display mostly welcome, but modification not allowed. Stage by stage, case by
Why, sir?
case.
Why, sir? I don't understand. Why, sir?
Because can you see red color underline?
Yes, yes.
So if compilation error, that is called compilation error. If that
Yeah.
error is coming, it is not allowed. That
Okay.
means you cannot run the program. It will say, hey, error is there, you cannot allow it. Reason, it is a get property. Get property means you can only get it, you cannot set it, right?
Okay.
Set means modify. Get means see it or display it. That means set, see is allowed, display is allowed, but modification not allowed. Now
Cannot
somebody,
calculate.
somebody came and say, Acha, okay, city you wanted not to modify, but imagine mobile number should be modified. For example, mobile number should be modified, as well as should be displayed. Then how property can do? That
Set.
means I'm trying to say that what my variable is doing, whether property also does that or not. Extra thing we saw, no problem. Which is not done, not possible by variable, it is possible by property, that we saw just now. But I want to see whether what is possible by variable, that is also possible by property. So for your clarity, let me write here variable
Sir,
or
actually,
field.
one doubt.
Can
said,
you guys please maintain raise hand facility? So discover all of you, there is a hand symbol.
So for me, it is not showing us. I mean, chart also.
See somewhere in the, let me show you. If you go to
Yeah, I think
reactions.
yeah, I logged in from my office one. Actually, I think looks like they disabled those chart window.
No. It's not. It's not. Because it's a Zoom facility. It's nothing related to Office or anything.
Because I
Sharing
think
may be disabled, but it will not. So if you see under reactions, there is a small hand symbol. So that can be used for doubt clearance, right?
okay.
Yeah. Everybody got, whoever was not able to see, because in
Yes, sir.
future also we'll use that facility, so better to discover that. So the moment you got a doubt, click on that, right? Imagine you are typing in the chat window, maybe at the end of the class I will see it, that may not be beneficial, right? So whenever doubt, then itself click on the right hand, that will be better. Yeah, somebody was asking something.
Yeah, sir. You said us like private variable means for that if it is if we need to access it but not modify. But we made it as a public, right?
Public means you can access outside, no problem, that's why you're able to access. But
But
when you say
our
get property,
main agenda was like private variable will try to access but not something like that, no?
no. Main
Okay.
agenda is variable versus property. What variable has the scope of work and what your property has scope of work. If you see line number 8 is my variable, right? I will repeat it again. When I make it public, both are allowed. Understand this point. You can display also, you can modify also. Point number 1. Point number 2, when I made it private, because it's a variable or it's a field, nothing is allowed. Okay. Now our demand is, I want a data here who should be able to display here, but that should not be able to modify there. Forget our private, public or whatever. I want this facility. But if I'm taking a variable, it is not helping me. If I'll make it private, everything restricted. If I make it public, everything allowed. Are you in same line? That means problem scenario is, if I'm using a variable, either I will access everything, I will modify also, which is not appropriate in my case. Or if I'll make it private, nothing, you cannot even see. That is the problem scenario. Now, solution is, instead of using variable, is there anything else replacing that variable? Instead of variable, is there anything else used in C# replacing that variable? That means I don't want to use this variable because variable is not good. It is giving either full access or no access. I want three variety: full access, no access, partial access. Is it possible? Variable at least says no, not possible. Right? Now come to property. How does it behave? So property says I will give you three things. Variable field says only two things, two category of access. That is either full access or no access. When I say full access, modify as well as display. Modify as well as display called full access. Only display called partial access. Nothing to do. Not even can display, not even can modify, no access. That is demerit of a variable. I'll go for now property. I'm replacing variable with property. Think it that way. Okay. I'm replacing, suppose I don't want to use variable, I want to use property, whether my three variety of accessibility possible or not. Three categories of accessibility. What? Point number one. Don't allow modification, but allow display. Don't allow modification, but allow display. Then comes like variable, other two cases. For example, allow everything means display also and modification also. Then only now I can say I can replace the variable with property. What my variable is doing, property also should be able to do. That means second point and third point, it is almost like a variable. So don't allow anything. Don't allow anything. That means we have three accessibility permissions in case of property, but we have only two accessibility permission instead of variable. So first let's clarify these 3 points. If I'm not at all using a variable also, if you want, I will delete it for a minute. I will delete it for a minute. If I'm not at all using variable also, is it possible that these two things I can get exactly like variable, last two things, and the first one I can get additional on top of that. So see how I'm doing it. So here I will say city. Okay, I don't have variable this time. I'm only using property, and using property I can get three facilities. So here I will say city is this. Okay. So first property, line number 10, category number 1, this one. Okay, line number 10. Second property, let's say I have another property called public string country. Okay. First I will complete this, then I will get back to you, whoever has raised the hand. Okay. So now second category is what? Now allow everything, just like a variable. So public with get and set. So I will say public string country. Okay. I will say get semicolon, set semicolon. I can say this time my country is India. This time my country is India. There is something called constructor, guys. Not now, after some time I'll tell you. But as of now, I don't know constructor. Suppose I'm directly assigning the value. New Delhi here, country India here. Now what is the meaning of this is, you can get it also, you can set it also publicly. What does it mean? Full access. So get means you can read only, you can only see, you cannot modify. Get as well as set means you can modify as well as you can see it. So see how I'm doing it. I will say country. So should I copy paste these two lines and change it to country? So city case, you saw that you are able to see it, but you are not able to modify it. But country case, let's see what happens. So I will say country. That means it will say whatever the existing country, you can display it, no problem. And I want to modify that country name to maybe Australia. Check it out. It is along both the lines. So in case of city, it was not allowing me second line. But in case of country, it allowed me both lines. So what is the contrast now between city property and country property? First to understand this, then we'll go to the third category. So anybody has any confusion here about the city property versus country property? One is public with get only, one is public with set on get as well as set. Public with get as well as set. That means public anyway, that's why you are able to use it. But get as well as set means this is for get. Get means you can display. And this is for set. Set means you can modify also. Now somebody says third one. Okay. Third category. Don't allow anything. Make it private property, bhai. As like your variable. So if you make this private, you cannot use outside over, just like a variable. So let me mention here, if you want that, then make it private. Private means forget about modification, you cannot display also. And allow everything means get as well as set. Get and set. Line number what? 12. So for your understanding, I'm writing here line 12. So line 10 wala property is one variety, line 12 wala property is another variety. Now if somebody says, I want a property which is totally private. Private means only should be accessible inside this class. Then variable and public property both are same. So simply you have to say private string, maybe street name, right? Private string street name get set. That means you can use definitely, but inside this class only. So string, let's say, should I name it father's name? Anything. Okay. So somebody says get also, set also, no problem. But only inside the same class. Okay. Only inside the same class. Suppose I said father's name is anything, I'm writing ABCD. Okay. So that ABCD can only be accessed inside this. If you try also, father's name you cannot access outside this class. That means here it will say not allowed to display also, not allowed to modify also. That means if you are using property, you are having three facility. If you are using variable, you have only 2 facility. So try to access this, see what happens. It will say you cannot even display and you cannot even modify obj.father's name. It will not come at all. Forget about modification. So equal to, suppose I say XYZ, it will say not even this allowed, not even. That means overall understanding in one sentence, can I say what my variable is doing, my property can do it. But what my property is doing, my variable cannot do it. Are you all with me? So if I'll say again here integer, private integer age equal to 26. So the overall difference between a variable and the property is what your property can do, it cannot be done by variable. But what your variable can do, easily can be done by property. That means line number 12 and line number 14, exact behavior like variable. But line number 10 is one additional behavior. So now tell me, it is better to use property or better to use variable? Everything that a variable does, a property can do. But everything that a property does, a variable can't. So should I use property always in future? And it's correct. In future, Rarely will say using variable. When you will be using variable for temporary purpose, not for public access, outside access, etc. So if you have something called internal access only, local variable kind of things, I want to use only a variable inside this function, nowhere else, then go for integer, let's say, roll number, anything. Possible. Possible everywhere. But best practice is only if you are thinking it's a temporary purpose, local scope. Outside this boundary, I don't want that roll number. Then go ahead, use variable, no problem. But if you feel sometimes outside, sometimes inside, outside sometimes full access, sometimes no access, sometimes partial access. So this kind of safety purpose, if you need, security purpose, then as a good programmer, never use variables. So it has seen that 99% cases, we will not use variables in the class level. We may use local level. Local level means inside function. This is called local variable. This is called local variable. This is called class variable. So in class level, it has seen that people never use variable nowadays. When property was not there in industry, yes, both the places you are using variable only. Like C language, C++ language, Fortran basic COBOL, they don't have something called property. So we are helpless. So we have to use variable in such case. But when property came, now we got to know that whatever variable does, it can do that plus additional something. Then why not we'll use property always in the class level. But inside function level, property is not allowed. You cannot declare a property inside a function, right? So property is always a class member. That's why only variable scope is for local variables as a good developer, but doesn't mean that there is any restriction. Somebody say, hey, I don't know property, man. I will use variable. What is there? It's okay, but not a good practice, right? So 99% cases in future, you will see in a class level, almost all the data are property. Maybe get, maybe set, get set, but properties. Now, question answer. Yogi, you have any question?
Yeah. So basically here we don't need to give, equal to also, right? We can only write get set and as a public, and we can assign a setter value somewhere else as
Possible,
well, right?
possible. That is called constructor. Since I have not taught you constructor, that's why directly I'm giving the values.
No, even without constructor, like if I initialize the my code instance,